for tuning in. I want to talk today to you all about periods. So, periods are very complex. So, this is just going to be a brief overview of what a period is, but I can do, and I probably will do along the line, several videos on periods. I'm going to talk today because I was inspired after coming off of my period to talk to you all about periods. So let's just jump right into it. I want to talk about cramps. They're terrible. But to be very specific, I want to talk about butt cramps. Yeah, I said it. Butt cramps. Cramps in ya butthole. I know I'm not the only one that experiences them, and I just want to get into it with you all about why we experience butt cramps. So the reason that we experience a period is because of the endometrial cells, or the cells of the uterine lining, or uterine cells. They are coming away from the uterus. So the shedding of the uterine lining is what menstruation is. That's just a very brief overview. When those cells start to come away from the uterus, they release hormones. Prostaglandins are the reason for cramps that you experience during menstruation. Not to be confused with oxytocin, which are like contraction cramps. Again, we'll talk about all of that later. But prostaglandins are the reason that we feel what we feel when we're experiencing cramps on our period. So the prostaglandins are released by the uterine cells. However, because the uterus is so closely aligned with, the anus and the rectal cavity, sometimes the hormones act on those areas as well. So particularly, you may notice that when you're on your period, you have to go to the bathroom, as in have a bowel movement, more frequently than you normally would. This is the prostaglandins acting very closely to your rectum and anal area. So it's not necessarily acting on it directly, but indirectly, it increases that urge, that feeling like, oh, maybe I have to go to the bathroom. And then you really don't necessarily always have to go. You just kind of feel like, do I? I'm not sure. But when you're having that severe, sharp, sudden pain to your butthole, that is when the prostaglandin is working directly and affecting directly the rectum or the anal area. And it's so common yet uncommon. Let me clarify. You may transiently experience butt cramps. So that severe, sharp, oh my gosh, did someone just stab me in the butthole pain, that should not be happening commonly, as in regularly. So you shouldn't be able to say, okay, I'm getting on my period, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have a butt cramp. More transiently, I like to call it a little bit of a Russian roulette. You might sit on the toilet and have to go to the bathroom, and you're like, okay, and then bam, out of nowhere, butt cramp. And it hurts so bad. You may be walking and particularly feeling like, ooh, I feel some cramps, butt cramp. It's going to come out of nowhere. Just shooting pain in your anus. A butt cramp. Yeah, that's how they come on. But again, to differentiate, let me be very clear. If you are regularly experiencing that severe stabbing-like pain in your anus, you may want to bring that up with your healthcare provider, be it your midwife, your obstetrician, whoever it is that you get your healthcare from. You might want to bring that up to them, because there are instances where the endometrium that we talked about, those cells that are uterine cells, they grow outside of the uterus. So that's called endometriosis. When a woman experiences, or a person experiences endometriosis, they typically find that endometrial cells fall somewhere relatively close to the uterus, but outside of the uterus. So whether that be the bladder, whether that be the anus, or I've read studies where a woman had this lung problem. She didn't know what it was. People kept telling her, oh, we don't know what it is. We don't know what it is, till she had a biopsy or something of the like. And they took a sample of that tissue that they saw. And it was endometrial tissue, so uterine cells growing inside of her lung. I don't remember all the details, but if you guys want to hear that story, or if you guys want to hear what happened to that woman, please let me know, and I'll look it up and I'll bring it to you guys in another video. So endometriosis, very serious, severe cramping, severe periods, heavy bleeding. That is something you definitely want to bring up to your healthcare provider. And that leads me to my next point. How do you know if you're having severe period cramps? Pain is relative. Pain is what you say it is. I can't tell you what your pain is like. And to you, your severe may be somebody's normal, and somebody else's normal may be really severe to you. We're all individuals, and that's why it's so important to be very in tune with yourself, very in tune with your body, and understanding what is your period like. It's a little bit harder if your period is irregular, but definitely you want to keep a journal or just a mental note even of what your period is like, so that anytime something is kind of off, you can know. You can say, well, this exact reason is why this is different from me. So I wanted to talk briefly about what is a normal period. What is a normal cramp, or normal cramps feel like when you're experiencing your period? So when you can characterize your period as severe, it would be if your bleeding is lasting greater than 7 days, if you are fully saturating a pad or tampon within 2 hours, and you're using the correct level of absorbency. That's very important. Also placing the tampon correctly. But if you are soaking a pad, soaking a tampon, if you're experiencing spills with a cup or disc regularly, then you may be having severe periods. And severe cramping is classified as any cramping that is not made better by over-the-counter medications. So regular, or what we call normal cramps, respond very well to over-the-counter. So the Tylenols, the Midols, the aspirins, all of those things, if you are taking those while you're on your period and find that that gives you relief, then you are most likely, don't hang me for, not being able to cover everything, but most likely you are experiencing a normal period, because those types of cramps, normal period cramps, respond very well to over-the-counter medications. Lastly, the next thing I can think of is blood clots. So because menstruation is the passing of the uterine lining, you can expect to see blood clots here or there. However, if you are seeing blood clots that are the size of a quarter or larger regularly during your period, definitely speak to your healthcare provider about that, and they may want to follow up with you, just because it's not normal, or what's considered normal, for you to be experiencing blood clots larger than a quarter regularly throughout your period. Again, endometriosis, PCOS or polycystic ovarian syndrome, fibroids, which as Black women, we have a higher propensity of getting fibroids. They can cause heavy bleeding. So you really do want to understand what is your normal. And if anything that I've described sounds, especially about the severity, sounds like that's what you have been considering normal, I definitely want to encourage you to speak to your healthcare provider. So yes, wrapping up my first point, butt cramps, they're not supposed to be regularly. However, when we have them, they're really the bane of our existence, because again, it's like Russian roulette with your butt. I'm sorry, I'm just going to be plain. I'm going to speak plainly about it. And then secondly, your period, get to know it very, very well. Write it down if you have to. I insist, and I use personally a period tracker. I put down everything. You know, they have all different kinds. I also regularly wear my Fitbit. So the Fitbit has a really good period tracker. I think that it's pretty much the most accurate one that I've used. And I like that it kind of updates itself. As far as, you know, when it suggests or when it determines that your next period is going to come. So, but there's tons of free apps. Please look into it. If you don't have one now, I'm highly suggesting it. The last thing that I kind of wanted to talk about as far as this first video on periods is, what do you do for those pesky blood stains? So for me, tried and true, no matter what, I'm going hydrogen peroxide. So if it's a fresh stain, and what I consider a fresh stain is you're sleeping, you bleed through, you wake up in the morning, and you see the stain. So that is relatively fresh in my mind. Other places it might be other things. But I have found personally that if I place hydrogen peroxide on that fresh stain, and then I hold my underwear taut under running cold water, it will really break down the stain very well. And then I wring it out, wring all the excess water out, and I'll actually pour more hydrogen peroxide onto the stain. And then I'll just throw the underwear in my hamper, because typically I wake up and I see that, you know, I bled through my underwear and I still have to get ready for work. I don't have time to do all that, start a load of laundry. So, and I find that it's better at getting the stain out the longer that you leave it on there. One thing to consider is that hydrogen peroxide is typically better for light colored clothing, because in dark colored clothing, you will notice over time that it can fade your clothes. So hydrogen peroxide, also lemon juice. Lemon juice is another good one, that a household product that you can use on lighter colored clothes. But for me, I really don't care, because typically it's on my underwear and nobody sees my period panties. So I don't care if they're faded. I don't care. I really don't care. I'm going to clean them and I'm going to throw them in the wash. Honestly, the only other thing that I would do, and maybe it's just my lazy way out, but then I can toss the underwear. I don't know. That's all I got, really. No. The next way that you can remove stains is actually using tried and true baking soda. So taking the baking soda and adding a little bit of water, depends on how much baking soda, how big the stain is, that you want to form like a paste to it. And I use an old toothbrush. I know, sorry for the visual, but I use an old toothbrush, work my paste, and then I work it into the stain. And you ideally want to let that sit for at least 30 minutes. But again, for me, because this is typically happening when I'm waking up and I still have to go to work, I just put that paste on there, work it in with the old toothbrush, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Really, it's just depending upon how big the stain is and how much time I really have. I'll work it in really fast, back and forth with a toothbrush, and then just throw it in my hamper and then leave it on until I'm able to come home and throw the whole thing in the wash. And those underwear come out like new. The paste is also what I find to be the best for the mattress. If you've bled all the way through to your mattress, I find that the paste works best, because the worst thing that you can do for a mattress blood stain is to saturate it. You want to avoid putting too much water on there, because that's one, going to spread the stain, and two, it's going to take forever to dry. So you want to take that paste and rub it into the stain with your old toothbrush, really work it in, and leave that to dry for at least 30 minutes. And then I would take the smallest amount of water and actually on the toothbrush and re-wet the same area and rub it in again. You might need to add more baking soda, but you really want to use the smallest amount of water as possible and keep on working it in layers. Then finally, I'll go back with just the smallest amount of laundry detergent, rub it into the stain, and I find that it lifts right out. So that is my quick overview on the bane of my existence of periods, which is cramps. and how to know if your bleeding is severe, definitely getting in tune with your body, and how to get rid of pesky period stains. So again, I'm gonna have so many videos on periods. It's such a complex topic, but I hope that you were able to learn something from this video. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you have anything that you want me to talk about, please leave a comment, and I hope that you have a really great day.